Imagine being a child again. What were you doing when you were 8, 9 years old? Playing outside? Messing with your siblings? Spending time with your parents? All these are perfectly normal for kids that age. But you know what's not normal for a child to do? Get abused by their father until death. Watching the people who are supposed to help them come and go, leaving them behind when they should have been rescuing them. That's exactly what happened to an 8-year-old boy named Noah in 2019. He was tortured by his own dad for years. And when Child Protective Services finally made their appearance, they abandoned him because his father refused to answer their questions. And because CPS, a program dedicated to saving victims of child abuse, decided that the abuser should speak for Noah's well-being, he never got the chance to be a kid. And now, he never will. Sadly, Noah isn't the only kid who has lost his childhood due to the failures of Child Protective Services. According to the National Committee to Prevent Child Abuse, in 2020, 7.1 million reports of child abuse flooded into the CPS system. You want to guess how many of those were actually looked into or even acknowledged? 42%, meaning that 4.1 million children were completely ignored by CPS. They also found that about every 10 seconds or so, a new report of child abuse is made to CPS, which means that by the end of my speech, CPS will have received about another 60 or so reports. And if you look at the 4.1 million ignored reports in 2020, if I were the child whose very life depended on that call back, I would not be too hopeful right about now. But I mean, those 7.1 million children are old news. I mean, come on, 2020 was 3 whole years ago. Surely, things have to have gotten better, right? Well, COVID threw a wrench in many parts of our support systems, and CPS is no different. According to Education Week, though the amount of child abuse cases didn't necessarily change during the pandemic in the US, the severity of child abuse did increase. The original 10% of child abuse cases that resulted in the child needing medical attention rose to 17% as the pandemic dragged on. And while other parts of our support systems evolved and adapted to the ever-changing COVID situation, CPS didn't change a thing. They saw that more and more kids were getting hospitalized due to child abuse. And aside from requiring masks when making in-person responses, not a single thing was fixed in the CPS system. And what happens when more and more kids are getting beaten until the brink of death? What happens when more and more kids start getting abused to the point where they need to be hospitalized? Well, let's just say that their grip on their own lives is bound to loosen eventually. So what went wrong? Well, first, let's look at the procedures, or lack thereof, that CPS goes through when responding to reports. According to Pride Legal, a network of LGBT attorneys in California, there are 2 distinct groups of child abuse reports that go into the CPS system. 1, reports of immediate danger, and 2, reports of potential risks. Reports of immediate danger are exactly what they sound like. If the reporter says that the child is in immediate danger of death, then CPS will respond immediately over the internet, and then again in person within 24 hours. However, reports of potential risks are far more nebulous. If the reporter were to say immediate danger of death, then CPS will respond in 10 days. 10 days is a very long time for someone like Noah. Potential risk can very quickly escalate into immediate danger of death, and who is to say that a new report will be made in time once that transition takes place? The only way to ensure immediate CPS response is death. And I think that all of us can agree that by then, it is too late. Abused children suffer every single second that CPS stalls their case. And even CPS research finds that 99% of child abuse cases doesn't result in death, but instead in common harm, such as scars, bruises, broken bones, and a shattered sense of self-worth. If 99% of children are not dying due to child abuse, but are still walking away with a lifetime's worth of trauma, why is CPS so willing to put their safety on hold? But let's just say that CPS does respond in a timely manner. Is it enough? I mean, there's more to life than just showing up after all. What does CPS actually do to solve this problem? Well, if the report is not one of immediate danger, then CPS caseworkers will look over the information provided, conduct an investigation, draft up a safety plan to rehabilitate the abusers, and then, no, that's it. They will not intervene to protect the child immediately, and, as in Noah's case, they may not intervene at all if the abusers are non-cooperative. And even if they found very clear, hard evidence of abuse, but not of immediate danger of death, then CPS caseworkers can only offer the family voluntary services for rehabilitation. I mean, do you really think that abusers will accept voluntary help? Well, even if you did and you wanted to give them the benefit of the doubt, let me tell you that CPS research themselves finds that 80% of abusers stay abusive despite being offered rehabilitation, as the power to enact control over a child who they believed was below them was just too much to fight against. Thus, all these reasons are why CPS only removes 10% of severely abused children in filed cases, meaning that 90% of children must continue to suffer abuse until they have been abused enough for CPS to finally step in. Meaning that children must meet a minimum amount of abuse required in order to escape their toxic households. So given the horrors that we've just uncovered with CPS, how do we fix this? Well, personally, I believe that the best way to extract weeds from your garden is to tear them out by the roots. So first of all, CPS rules must be changed. For children in potential risk situations, instead of waiting 10 whole days to give them a response, CPS should shorten that to 24 hours to mirror immediate danger cases. This way, those children don't have to suffer for longer than necessary, and they can get the help that they need as quickly as possible. And second of all, instead of offering voluntary services for rehabilitation and leaving the family together while the parents undergo these services, CPS should, first move the child to live with other relatives so that they don't have to suffer more harm while their parents are still undergoing treatment. And also, instead of only offering voluntary services, CPS should make those services mandatory so that the abusers don't have the option of completely ignoring this line of help and going along their way to continue to abuse their children. But of course, all of this has to do with the child and the parent and CPS, aka those who are directly involved in these terrible cases. So what about the rest of us? We cannot change the rulebook, nor can we rewrite the law. But that doesn't mean that we're all entirely useless in this situation. For some odd reason, I recently discovered that the internet seems to have made CPS into a joke, saying that they don't help kids at all. Which is strange, because it's totally unprecedented and I have no idea where that idea came from. But in all seriousness, to the rest of us who have never had to suffer because of the negligence of CPS, that whole concept may seem like a joke. But to kids who have had their lives put on the line, who don't know if they're going to wake up to a new tomorrow, this is not a joke to them. So for us, what we should do is raise awareness. Talk about CPS's flaws with your friends, your family, the people you know. Eventually, CPS will realize that people are fighting against them. And only then will we start seeing change. So until that time comes, all we can do is raise our voices and deliver a message. So you see, Noah lost his life in 2019 because he lost his fight against the messed up CPS system. And now we must make sure that this doesn't happen to any more innocent children. We know what has been wrong with the CPS system this whole time. And now we must make them see that the lives of the future generation are valuable. Change starts here, and it starts now. CPS is